the fantastic and amazing John Claude Van Damme. No, I'm kidding. It is JC. Wow. 13 years ago, right? JC made the decision to reclaim his life and started living for things that matter most. He had become tired of working all the time and missing out on, of course, family. Today, he has coached thousands of people in reaching optimal health, and speaks in front of crowds of 10,000 people and more. So his health and helping others is to thrive also in physically, mentally, financially, and has become passionate in his life and is now able to present not only as a dad, but also as a partner, son, friend, and coach. And también es de Texas. Yo soy de Texas. Estoy hablando español, if you don't mind, real quick. JC, where do you think in Texas I'm from?
Oh, he's
Unmute. I was muted. Sorry. Where in Texas are you from? That's an interesting question. I would say as close to the border as possible.
What gave that away?
oh, he got
Awesome.
shot.
So
Love it. Yes.
are we ready to rock here?
We are ready to rock. Thank you very much, JC, and of course, Doc, for your time. Michael, thank you, both of you, for your time today. I really appreciate it. Around this time, and I don't want to be the Debbie Downer of it, but yes, I lost my dad like 10 years ago. So my dad, of course, is my hero. And I'm first generation American from McAllen, Texas, by the way. Jason. And you're in San Antonio, right?
Actually, no, I'm not from Texas. I'm actually from France, and my wife's from South Africa. I'm actually right now in Connecticut. So as far as our where we live in the US, it really changes from time to time.
Understand.
But I've been in Texas many times.
Understand. All right. So JC, whenever you're ready, let's tell us a little bit about your experience as a father and the challenges, and all the triumphs and turbulence of being a dad in the 21st century, right?
Awesome. Yeah, it's actually my favorite topic because it took me a while to figure it out. And I think that's probably a lot of us can say that, it takes a while for us to figure things out. But I've completely redefined what success means today. And it's funny that it took me so long, but for me now, just the person that I've become because of, and I'll share a little bit about my story. I always like to ask people a question: how will you know that you are successful? And what an interesting question, because that depends on what you think success is. And is it money? Is it, impacting the lives of others and all of those things? And I've done all of that stuff, but I come to you today with a completely new definition of how I actually measure success and how I will know that I'm successful. And it's the reason that I'm in my car right now. And the reason why I'm in my car right now is because my son has a hockey game and I don't miss nothing anymore.
We wouldn't want you to miss.
Right. And the old me would have put work in front of this and missed it. But the way that I define success is when my son looks at me. I have two sons and we just adopted a little girl. If any one of them look at me, point at me and say, "That's my dad," that's how I know that I'm successful. So just so everybody knows that's listening, I can't tell because I'm just coming in from my car here. That's what I want everyone to know about me. First of all, before you find out about everything that I've done, I'm a father. And what I want to share with you today is where I came from and how I came to this awakening that I just shared with you. So without going too deep, I can tell you that I was raised pretty well. My parents were both professional athletes. My father was an Olympic skier. My mom was a professional tennis player. And that's why, by the way, I gravitated, I don't do it anymore, but I gravitated towards a non-drug, non-surgical career of chiropractic. And, it's interesting because I want to focus on the father component, but I was always so proud of my father, and I looked up to him. He was a mentor of mine, but I was very, very young at the time, and I really didn't know too much about what was going on. But I just remember at 11 years old, it was my birthday, and I came home, and what it's like when you're 11 years old on your birthday. What are you expecting when you come home? It's going to be balloons and streamers, and all my friends are coming over and everything like that. So I walk in the door, and it's my day. And what I see is my mom at the bottom of the staircase in her underwear. She's not listening to this, so it's okay that I say that. In her underwear, crying. And I said to my mom, I said, "Mom, what's wrong?" And she looks at me, and I could tell in her face that she had completely forgotten it was my birthday. That was the first thing I remember.
Wow.
And she looks at me and she says, "Your father's leaving us." So at 11 years old, I don't know what that means, because to be honest, my father worked so much. He was a workaholic. My father would go away for 3-4 months at a time. So I said, "Oh, where is he going now?" But what she meant was that he's leaving us. So, at 11 years old, the way I interpreted that was, okay, can I go play with my friends? And I didn't understand what it meant. And, we don't have time to go over everything, but I share that with you because that was the day that I made two decisions. One, I was going to blame my father for everything that ever happened to me.
Right.
Started then, and things got pretty dark in my life, which were all blessings. But the second thing was that I was never going to be like my father. Right? And the reason why that's important for people to understand is, what does it take to be a good dad? It doesn't take a lot. It takes why I'm here in this car right now. It takes showing up. It doesn't take perfection, because your kids are always going to have a problem with something you do.
Right.
But I, that day, looked at a man that just walked away from his family. So that set a course of a whole bunch of interesting things. But the main one I wanted to share is that I was never going to be like him. If you ever told me that I was like my father, that would be the worst thing you could ever say. So then I proceeded to set forth on a trajectory to be, anything but him. And as dads probably could resonate with, I found myself exactly like him. I went to chiropractic school. I met, what now is my ex-wife. I met, this wonderful girl. We had kids, and I became a workaholic. And I remember I justified being a workaholic because I thought that was my role. I was supposed to feed the family and forego everything else. I would wake up in the morning, and I was unconscious to all this, folks. I thought I was doing a good job. I used to wake up in the morning and my kids were asleep, but I would go kiss them and I would whisper, "Your daddy loves you. You're the most important people in the world to me." And then I would leave and come back at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And they would be asleep, and I would just find out. My wife would be there with her arms crossed, like I remember my mom was. And I would walk in the door. And to be honest with you, I don't have time to tell the whole story, but I went through a very, very dark time in my life when I was about 35. I'm 50 now. Oh no, I'm sorry, about 28. I went through a very, very dark time where, to be honest with you, I wanted to end my life because I lost my identity and everything like that. And it was the greatest blessing in the world because that was the moment that a therapist showed me why I was so distraught with my life, is because I had followed in the same path as my father, and it depressed me. So what it did for me was it woke me up, and I identified that my lifestyle was completely incongruent and out of whack. as a husband, as a father, as a friend, anything. I was just completely incongruent. So I made a decision. That was another decision. I'll probably make another decision tomorrow, but I make decisions all the time. So I made this decision that day that I was going to set things right. And I walked away from, a very successful chiropractic practice. Some of you know what I do now. I own an international coaching company, but I had to take a big, big risk and walk away from a very, very lucrative, successful business and start from scratch a whole new business that allotted me the ability to work from home and remote. Very, very scary to do that when you're the provider of the family. But what happened that day was that I started to live my life around the things that mattered most. Right. And what that means is to put the things that matter most first, and then to put your career second, which a lot of people know they need to do, but it's not easy to do. It requires very, very big risk. But the reason why I was okay taking that risk was I would die for my children, but I wasn't living for my children. Right. So I didn't mind taking a risk because it was less risk than dying for my children. Right. It made sense. So in any case, that's when I was just reborn. There's so many other elements to this, but the real lesson that I wanted to share today was to be a good dad. You have to put being a dad before the other stuff. And I know it's tough. But at the end of the day, if I only had, 10 minutes to live, what would I do with those 10 minutes? Would I work or would I go to my son's hockey game? You know what I mean? So I hope that you don't mind, but I would say that I got my shit together and I started to become a father. And what's interesting about that is that it actually manifested a level of financial success that I never dreamed possible. So I sit here before you today, a free man, a father with more money than I need. I attracted the woman of my dreams into my life, who just randomly had a story of her sister dying and leaving behind a daughter. So now she and I have adopted a daughter. So I have a 12-year-old daughter now who's getting just the world's greatest father, in the world. And that's important. As a lady, you understand how important your relationship, Claudia, I hear you speak so wonderfully about your relationship with your father. I look forward to my daughter talking about me one day like that, because that's how I'll know that I'm successful, So there's so much more. I speak about this stuff a lot. I'm coming out, I'm publishing a book soon, 8 years in the making. My podcast is called Rise Up with Dragon, and I talk about heavy stuff, very, very much connected to this. But it's an honor and a privilege. One thing that's funny, I'll say in closing, I woke up this morning and I was really, really depressed. And the reason why is I thought today was Father's Day. And the reason why I thought today was Father's Day is because of this speaking engagement. And I was so depressed because nobody said Happy Father's Day to me. So when I found out that Father's Day was on the 19th, I got so excited because I got a whole week to tell everybody it's Father's Day next week. And then I'll get a Happy Father's Day from everybody. So love and appreciate you all. Thanks so much for having me here. But that's all I'll share today. You're muted.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Like, that to me was that was amazing. I love your story. I love your drive. I've listened to your podcast, and shout out to Paula and for connecting us. That's anytime anybody connects me to anybody, then it's always a great thing, because that's what we're here for. We're here to connect, we're here to network, we're here to lift each other up, we're here to remind people of who they are and whose they are. And I'm just so glad that you shared your heart with us, shared your amazing journey and story with us. I am a child of divorce, and so that spoke wonders to me. I'm very, very honored to have you on with our podcast and just have you share a little bit of you with us. And I'm just so thankful for what was just said, because if you did not catch what he said, go back and listen to it again, because it's so important. That as a child, you kind of look up to your parents. You kind of look up and be like, oh, that's your idea of who you want to be. That's the idea of a role model. And if you don't have a good role model at home, then you grow up confused. You grow up, just not knowing what to do, very insecure, like I didn't have a father growing up. I mean, he didn't die or anything, but he wasn't present. And so that's something that I struggled with whenever I was married, is I didn't know how to respect a man, because there was no man for my mom. My mom never remarried. And so respect is such an important thing for men that I had no idea how to do that. And so I would catch myself disrespecting my ex-husband and be like, why am I doing that? And I didn't know that I was doing that, because I never saw that at home. And so, and when I realized it, I felt so guilty, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so deep. Like, I didn't think it would have that effect. And so, I'm just so thankful for everything that was just said. If you're listening on Clubhouse, we are this is Learning Idioms Parenting Summit. We are featuring fathers, and, because it's Father's Day next weekend. And so I planned it. I'm a big planner. If you guys are on Zoom, you guys can see there is my little calendar. It's dry erase because, stuff happens and, you have to adjust. So, uh, Claudia, unmute and definitely just give us a little bit of feedback. Oh, you're muted, by the way. Claudia, you're muted.
All right. I was gonna say, Doc, real quick. I was a assistant director for 13 chiropractic clinics throughout the state of Arkansas, and I recall a lot of these chiropractors were actually either divorced or single, because you're pouring so much out of you as a chiropractor, and it's a very yes, lucrative career, but at the same time it takes a lot away from your family. So yes, thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm like I said, I'm my father, yes, first generation American. So I feel like they're on my ancestors on my shoulders, so I carry them. But I chose the father of my children. He's actually from Europe, British, England. And when I met his kids, I said, I want to have these smart babies. But see how it all works out. It wasn't the best husband, but a phenomenal father. And I thought to myself, it, I would do it all over again. It was worth it. But anyway, I know you got to go, Doc. Thank you so much for your time and everything that you've done. And I'm looking forward to Rise Up from the Dragon. I'm going to get that book. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. Have a blessed one.
we love
God bless you.
we love it.
Yes. Yes, that's so awesome. That he was a chiropractor. I should have done a little bit more research on that, but that's amazing. It takes a long time um, to realize, you know, we mirror a lot of what we see as children, right? But at the end of the day, we as parents, I have a 23 and a 22-year-old, and we are as parents are the primary educators of our children. So even though that my ex-husband and I are 19 years apart, he was 19 years my senior, he still is a phenomenal father to his other kids. He's got two older kids, brilliant kids. Um, my son learned how to ride, a motorcycle before he learned how to ride a bike. So we had the best parenting, uh, just foundation for our children. When I look at my kids, I'm like, wow, they're my children. My son is third degree black belt, one of the youngest in the state to be certified to teach um, Taekwondo, Jiu Jitsu, and he's 23 now, and he plays in a band, and he's a ham. He's always doing things, but it comes so natural to him. And then my daughter just graduated college as a nutrition major, and went to the college, the same college I went, UCA, University of Central Arkansas, amazing institution. And I look at my children, I'm like if God takes me today, and I hate to say it, I'm good. Like my kids, I can't, not because they're my children, but I look at them, I'm like, wow, what a blessing. And then my heart and my passion is the children from the community. I actually I have my own business as a bilingual marketing consultant. I reach out to a lot of the local businesses. I've been knocking on doors for over 20 years and told every business under the sun in this community that there's going to be a wave of Latinos coming. So either you hire me now or let me teach you all some Spanish. And sure enough, we are 300,000 in the state of Arkansas. We are 3.2 million population. 300 of it is we are Latino or Hispanic descent. And the Latino buying power through my years of advocating and years of being a Latina leader of our community that I've earned through the years, for every, and this is through Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, for every $1 that has been spent in the state of Arkansas, 7 has been spent by an immigrant. So don't tell me we're exhausting the economy in our state. But it is I believe, a $17 trillion buying power of our Latino buying power. It's amazing. I'm just honored, again, to be part of this journey. Motherhood, for a minute there, I'm like, how am I going to do this after being divorced for 5 years? And it was a struggle. My son is stay with dad. He's like, I don't want to leave dad by himself. And I'm like, well, you can stay with him. I mean, I'm just around the corner. I don't live too far. But I got not this apartment, but next door, and I dropped on my knees, and I had never lived by myself in my life. I dropped on my knees and I said, God, I'm in your hands. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent, or because he'd pay the rent, we'd help each other, but I've never done all of the bills. But through prayer and perseverance and being the hustler that I am, because I love to I'm a businesswoman by nature, and I'm a creator of opportunity, and I love to connect people. That is my gift. But anyway, my son ended up coming to me to stay with me 2 years ago. So needless to say, their relationship with their father is still impeccable. And he's a phenomenal father. And I won't take that from him, but not the best husband. I am wife number 3 and he is husband number 1. So hopefully marriage will be in my future. And if not, that's fine. But I'm really, again, honored, Aysleth and Mr. Shoultz. I'm going to have you, share a little bit about what you do.
So
Again, we are in this
right,
summit. Yes. You're
right,
ready, Miss Aysleth?
right before we get to Michael, I have to shout him out
Yes.
because I am a special.
Yes.
My son has level 2 autism, and so I just have to say the interview that I had with you was very much needed, for me personally, but also for the community that I have created. And so I definitely want to speak to any kind of special needs parent out there that if you don't have a community, get a community, get involved. Even if it's extra stress, it's not going to be stressful because it's going to help you. It's going to help your mental health. It's going to in turn help your children. And so, there's respite cares here in Arkansas. I do want to shout out Anna Valenzuela because she is part of the Community Connections here in Conway. And they do so much for special needs parents here in Arkansas. If you're in Little Rock, Conway, in Russellville, they do all kinds of events here. And so I definitely want to shout them out because my son always enjoys their programs, their respite care, just the way that they interact with the children is amazing. And so I definitely, in Spanish, they say darle porra. Yeah, darle porra, because they're just awesome at what they do. And so I'm so excited for Michael to share a little bit about who he is, a little bit of what he does, and just who he is as an amazing man that's been helping these people for so many years. And I'm just humbled to be able to share him with my audience, with my community, and with our community, because it takes there's that saying, it takes a village to raise a kid, and if they also say you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And so if you choose those 5 people very, very carefully, you can be just as successful as the people that you see on TV, just as successful as you hear on the radio, just as successful, just like, the doctor was talking about success, that's you have the power to define what that means to you. And so, Michael, take it away. You have the floor.
Let's see. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for that. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Michael Shoultz, and my personal pronouns are, excuse me, he, him, and his. And I probably, like you, wear a lot of hats in life. I'm the co-parent and father to 2 amazing adult children. Carissa is my daughter, and she's 34 years of age. My son is Nathan. He was our firstborn child, and he is now 37. So I'm also the life partner to a wonderful man named Alkeen. My ex-wife, Nan, and I founded and continue to operate the business Autism Resources Network, is what Aysleth was referring to just a few minutes ago. And so, and it's an organization that helps teams and groups and families to understand and support people with autism. And it's one of 2 of my businesses, because I'm also a struggling at times, but thriving entrepreneur with a second business. And that business focuses on coaching and training businesses and individuals and teams to know and live out their full potential in life. John Maxwell certified coach, very involved in an empowered living community. It's all about just helping people understand and see their unlimited potential and to live that out, close that gap between where they are in life and where they want to be in terms of where they're headed. So it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. And to share this Father's Day Summit with you. So this past April, I had the pleasure to connect with Aysleth through the grace of a mutual friend, Naomi. Okay, and Naomi thought that we should get together and know one another because we had a common connection, that connection being the world of autism. So Aysleth has an amazing son with autism, and I've worked with and supported autistic individuals and their teams for over 40 years as a teacher and an advocate and as a consultant and a trainer. And so she invited me on to her podcast in April. It was during Autism Awareness Acceptance Month. We had a great talk about my experiences and autism. And then we ended up wrapping things up and talking about this Father's Day Summit. Now, as you have heard, and as you'll hear a little bit more, I have a very diverse and varied background. And I have served and continue to serve others in a wide variety of roles that have been challenging at times, but also have provided me with some amazing opportunities to become the man that I am, the businessman that I am, the father that I am, and who I'm becoming. It's an ongoing journey, right? I'm one of those that believes that we never stop learning. And I'll never, and I try to impart that upon my kids and others that I'm involved with. And so it's been just a really wonderful tapestry of a life experiences that's kind of led me to think about what I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to take a little bit different angle. I have some commonalities. I'm almost a product of a divorce. My parents were divorced. I ended up getting divorced. So, I have that kind of commonality to some things that have already kind of been referenced here. But really what I wanted to talk with you about was the idea of fathering. Yes, I'm a father, but there's a concept of fathering that I'm interested in kind of talking with you all about, because you see, I'm not a mother, yet I have mothered my children and others throughout my years. Similarly, Claudia and Aysleth, you're not fathers, and yet I'm pretty certain that you've had a role in fathering others in your life, right? And so yesterday, I went to the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. I went to it's a pretty big Chicago on the lakefront of Chicago, and I went with my daughter and her boyfriend and her mother, who you now know is my longtime co-parent, friend, and business partner. And so while we were there, we saw the seahorses, among other critters that live in the water. And so I don't know if you remember a pretty unique quality that seahorses has, but that being that seahorses and their close relatives, sea dragons, are the only species where the male gets pregnant and gives birth to their babies. It gives birth to the babies. Pretty cool, right? So I didn't give birth to either of my kids, and I didn't breastfeed them either. Those were roles that went to Nan, who had exclusivity on those parenting roles. Now, if you Google mothering, it'll come up. One of the definitions that you'll see is to bring up with care and affection. And so while I didn't give birth to Nathan and Carissa, I did bathe and feed them. I changed a lot of diapers. I mean, a lot. I sat on the floor and played with them before they could move. I watched them as they learned to crawl. I helped them as they learned to stand and walk and run. I cooked and cleaned for them. I made lunches and did the school drop-offs and pickups. I took them shopping. We went shopping for clothes and new books and new toys. Oh man, the toys, I loved the toy shopping. I remember going out on Christmas Eve on many, many nights at 11:30 because the Toys R Us, because I didn't think that they had enough toys and they needed more. So I put them to bed. I read to them. I had them read to me. I switched off their lights as they fell asleep. And so I was not, and I am not their mother, but I've done a lot of mothering in my life. Now, if you Google fathering is the meaning for fathering that you'll read about is to treat with protective care associated with the father. So protective care. And therein lies the difference between mothering and fathering. And while mothering involves care and affection, the care one gives while fathering is said to be more protective. So think about that. How are you involved in protecting your kids? And if you stop and think about that, there are a lot of things that we have to focus on, right? When we're trying to protect our kids, we have to protect them from what they're watching and with whom and where they're hanging out and what they're eating and drinking. If you do some looking at statistics, we know that 60% of teens have abused alcohol by the time that they get to 12th grade. In 2020, there were over 600,000 cases of child abuse. And the most common form of maltreatment in the US is neglect. 1 of 5 students report that they've been bullied. So these are just some of the, quote, outside dangers that we must protect our kids from in order to, keep them healthy and safe. But think about it. There are inside dangers that we must protect our kids from too, aren't they? In my work today with adults and fellow entrepreneurs, what I'm learning is that one of the biggest things that holds people back from living out their dreams and achieving their desires is their own self-sabotaging activities, procrastination, negative self-talk, all those limiting beliefs about what's really possible for them. And in 1960, Maxwell wrote, oops, and you can't really see it because of my green screen or my book, I was just holding it up, Psycho-Cybernetics. Or either you familiar with that book, Psycho-Cybernetics? It's an amazing book. I read it at least once a year. Just did a book study with it with a group of people recently. And so in this book, Dr. Maltz, who was a plastic surgeon, okay? So, and what he came to learn was that people would come to him for plastic surgeries, either through some injuries that they sustained or just some, natural birth defects. And he would do things to make them beautiful, but they never felt beautiful because they did not have a self-image of being beautiful. And even though now they were, beautiful by all regards, they did not feel beautiful. And what Dr. Maltz tells us in his book is that you can never outperform your own self-image, okay? So no one, not me, not you, not your kids, are going to ever outperform their self-image. And that's so true. I know it firsthand that improving one's self-image is really key to bringing about better results in our lives. And so in the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maltz talks about a mechanical perspective of the brain. He talks about this servo mechanism, and he talks about how we can use that analogy to help us create a new system of thinking and behaving in our lives as well. And so Maltz taught us how our self-image and patterns of thinking really impacts everything that we do in our lives, okay? Excuse me. He showed us how we can improve our life by changing our habits and, most importantly, our thoughts, and how we can turn setbacks and failures into progress and success. And how many of you think that that is something that our kids should be learning, either in the schools or in our homes? It's a really important concept that I think is really vital for our kids to acquire. And so this book really is a cornerstone of the self-help genre, and it's full of so many ideas that will empower you and your kids to create happier, more successful lives. Now, I believe that schools today spend a whole lot of time teaching kids what to think, okay, but not a whole lot about how to think. And I believe that if we can really elevate or we can really alleviate some of those, quote, inside dangers that we're trying to protect our kids from, if we take the time to teach them how to think, how their thoughts form their beliefs, and that those beliefs drive their behaviors. And those behaviors is what impacts the results that they achieve in all aspects of their life. Kids are real quick to rattle off their 5 physical senses: touch, smell, taste, sight, and sound. Some of them even know about our other 3 senses, proprioception, vestibular, and interoception, but they never learn about their 6 intellectual faculties: imagination, intuition, perception, will, reasoning, and memory, and how they can use those in conjunction with universal laws of life and creation that really positively impact the results that they experience in their lives. So how would our lives change if we equip them with this knowledge and information and skills? Now, one of my jobs and my role as an autism consultant is that I really work with a lot of kids with autism and other unique learning, communication, and behavioral challenges. And one thing that I always strive to do, especially when I'm working with a middle school age student, is really insist that their team spend some time teaching the student to understand their autism or understand their disability, what they need to be successful. They need to attend their IEP meetings. They need to be present. They need to present at those meetings. They need to learn to be their own self-advocate, right? I mean, the parents are always going to advocate for them and that they're there for them as well, but kids need to learn those self-advocacy skills as well. And, we're going to be involved in fathering and protecting our kids. But I believe that if we teach kids to become self-advocates for themselves, that we help them to challenge and learn how to think and how to challenge their limiting beliefs and how to tap into their unlimited potential. I think that is really so important. So that's like one dimension of fathering. I mean, there's a lot more that we could talk about in terms of fathering, but I'm going to leave it there. And look forward and glad to talk with you about any other kinds of ideas about what it means to father your kids and others in your lives, and definitely interested in gaining your thoughts and perspectives about fathering and what we can do to improve those skills with our own repertoire of being great parents. So I'll stop there.
That was amazing. Like round of applause for all the information that you gave. For if you saw me snapping on Zoom, it's because I'm a poet and that is how we clap. And so that was just like, you dropped so many truth bombs right there that you just I'm speechless. I'm like, wow. Like just the fact that you mentioned all of those senses and not just the 5 senses, but even more into depth of, in imagination, perspective, like those are all things that kids don't learn, naturally. Someone has to teach them those things. They need some kind of guidance for those types of things. And when they have the right guidance, then they can in turn do it by themselves and learn how to, in quote unquote, self-soothe their inner being. My son, I remember, I'll never forget when he was like 4 or 5 years old and he would not ask me what we were going to eat. He would not ask me, basic natural needs. What he would ask me were like out there questions like, what does the sun say to the tree? What does the tornado say to the sun? What does the volcano say to the tree or the ground? Or just like out there. And I'm like, dear Jesus, help me and not cut his imagination and just, help him, not. I'm like, what do you respond to those things? And so I would, I'm a very creative person too. So I'll be trying to grow his creativity. And try to make it fun. I guess the teacher in me would just glow up and be like, let me think about that one moment. And so it would force me to think differently. And that's one of the things that I love about being a special needs mother is having the ability to be forced to think differently, because you want to empower them. You want them to be successful. You want them to not rely on you and be self-reliant and be independent so they can be, successful individuals and be part of the community when they grow up. And so when he would ask me those things when he was 4 or 5, I was overwhelmed in the beginning, but then as the time went on, I was like, wow, I feel so honored that God chose me to mother him, because if I wouldn't have had him in my life, I honestly don't know where I would be, because it just kind of opened my mind to so many different types of things. And his middle name is Aaron, and Aaron means enlightened one, and so when um he would ask me those things, I'm like, oh, ahí está el Aarón, ahí está Aarón. In Spanish, it's Aarón. And so when he would ask me those things, and even now, whenever he asks me, he's like, oh, that's not Kevin, that's Aarón. And so because Kevin means gentle and kind and beautiful. And I'm thankful for his dad giving him that name, because it's easy to say. My name is Aysleth. It's Hebrew. I am Jewish. And so that name has been very hard for a lot of people. I love my name, and it makes me unique. And I'm just thankful that my mom had the obedience to give me that name, because she said that it was a God thing, because she had no idea. Like, all of my siblings have very normal names. Mine's is not, which I'm totally okay with, because I was the last one, so she just did, had her last chance to, give me an extra special name, I guess. And so that everything that you just said, it lit my fire once more, just to always look at their perspective, and always learn from your children. As parents, we're so focused on teaching them right, teaching, making sure they're obeying, making sure they're acting, what society considers good, so that they're not in trouble. We focus so much on that we sometimes miss out on little things that our children do, that God is trying to teach us how to be. They say, if your child is doing something, that they're not supposed to be doing, the first person that you need to blame is the person in the mirror. And the reason why I say that is because I can honestly say I used to think and be like, okay, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? Why? Like, I would question why so much. And it wasn't until I changed my perspective into accepting the way that he was, and just trying to empower him instead of asking why. I'll never forget one of my Jewish friends. He said, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just is obey and not ask why. And when he said that, like, I was like, because I'm a journalist at heart, like, we ask questions, we don't want to know why. We want to, so I'm just like, not ask a question, just, and so it was just so weird to me that I'm like, I'm not supposed to ask a question. And so it was something different for me. I was still in college and I was still studying. So I was like working full time. I was a full-time student. And I had my special needs son. I had no social life, and I didn't care because I was on that dean's list. You better believe it. Yeah. And so, that's something that look, if you can see right there, that's my bachelor's degree. And I don't say that to puff myself up or anything. I say that in the humblest way, because that right there taught me how to be who I am. And if I had any amount of success emotionally, spiritually, financially, it's because I chose to keep doing what, I wanted to do. I did not go to college to have a good time. I went to college to learn. And so if you're out there and you want to study, make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity and not just throw it away by partying, and by, just, not having the balance. I think when it's balance, it's super important. I got married when I was in college, and so I think that definitely helped me kind of stick to one path, because I didn't have time. I had a husband to attend to, and so that was something that it shaped who I am now. And I'm thankful that God knew better, and I chose to let God do whatever he had to do. So I'm just so grateful and thankful for Maxwell malts, cycles, how do you say that?
Psycho-cybernetics.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, eso es lo que dijo. Claudia, do you have any feedback on that? I can see your face just lighting up, so I know you're mute, by the way. For sure, the next thing that we definitely do not want to leave out is the security provision. Part of Claudia and how she and a team of people, they're in charge of doing security for. She can probably talk a lot more about it. I have some right before we. I have this video that we want to play, just so that we don't leave Daniel Gomez. Daniel Gomez has been such an amazing encourager, father figure to me. He's been, every time I talk to him, we always pray together. He's been just a very influential person in my life, and I'm just so grateful for him. And so I am just so excited to be able to share a little bit of inspiration. He has a podcast, and he is a business coach, and he's just one of those world changers. He definitely changes the world around him with his words, with his actions, with his prayers. And so I'm just super excited to be able to share just a little bit of him with you. And so I'm going to start that. Oh, it's loading a little. Thank you everyone for who's on Clubhouse. We are on Clubhouse still, by the way.
Hey guys.
Oh, you're unmuted. You can talk a little bit while it's loading, Claudia.
Oh, I just love what Mr. Shoultz was saying. My goodness, I love that interpersonal connection, imagination, perception, reasoning, just how to articulate words and express. I had the honors to teach independent living services. We had students from 18 to 80, and they had all kinds of different disabilities. And I went in there thinking, I'm gonna teach them. No, I walked out of there 3.5 years later being taught by these students. My goodness, I learned so much from them. I, being a teacher, felt like I was a student. Are you kidding me? I don't know what it's like to be autistic. I don't know what it's like not to have legs. I'll never forget one of my first students. She was 38 at the time. I think I was around the same age. And when I took her to the restroom, I wanted to lift her and take her. And she goes, Miss Fountain, I've been doing this all my life. It's okay. You don't have to help me to the restroom. She's like, I've been doing this all my life. And I was like, my gosh. But I've had a very beautiful cornucopia of different jobs. And one of my favorite was that working for independent living services, where they taught these beautiful, just human beings that had maybe even blind, or we had another student of mine who was autistic, and he had his crayons and he would color on a sheet of paper, and I couldn't make what it was, but he had broken crayons in a bag, a Ziploc bag, and then the other one he had sheets of white paper. And I was trying to just, like, the first day and I was just observing him for the first few weeks. He was literally writing words on top of words on top of words on top of words. And I was like, what? And he was very patient, but I was trying to really learn how to communicate with him. So, Bulb, I had that eureka moment and said, in my classroom, I'm going to have this student to write the menu on the board since he loves to write all the time. And I try to get every student in my classroom involved in the teaching. I would have them teach others because I wanted to see how their thought process and resolving solutions, how it's just the brain is amazing. These kids, you can say there was a clairvoyant student of mine who you can say he doesn't have the social, but if you say what happened in 1962, he'll tell you exactly what happened in 1962. What day was, uh, February the 15th, 1919. He'll tell you exactly it was on a Monday. It was Monday, or, I'm just like amazed. So just teaching, going in there thinking you're going to go teach. No, I read every book. I got certified in everything you can possibly think of. And when you walk into that classroom and they're looking at you for like guidance, they helped, they made me a better human. Forget being an educator. They helped me to become this human being of a servant, just to serve and to keep challenging myself as a human being of how I can change, like you say, Aysleth, world changers, starting with people around us. And those kids are phenomenal. Oh my goodness. Mr. Shoultz, I don't know. My hats go off to you. You are an amazing, also Renaissance man. My goodness, you've done so many different things. And did I get that right? Being part of the LGBT community as
Right.
well? Wow. Like, that is such a beautiful, what a representation and testimonial.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the
So
whole story there, in terms of that coming up process and my family, with my yeah, I could go on for to talk about that in great detail. But yeah, I've been really blessed to have some very wonderful people in my life that have supported me and have cared for me and it helped me to grow and develop. So yeah.
man, just another layer to love.
Yeah.
Just
Right,
another,
right.
When it comes to love,
wow.
the Bible says, love casts out all fear. And when it comes to any type of person, regardless of who they are, regardless of what they believe, regardless of how they identify, God still loves them. God is still for them. I'm me being Jewish and knowing, the differences between being a Christian and practicing Judaism and seeing the benefits of both. It definitely opened my eyes. I have friends who practice Islam. I am no, the Bible doesn't tell us to judge people. It just tells us to love them. And so I just, try to, not put out the light that I see in them, regardless of who they are and how they choose to be. I think that's definitely something that the world needs more acceptance when it comes to who this person believes, because you're on a journey regardless if whatever you believe, whatever you aspire to be, you're on a journey. The only person that's responsible for that journey is you.
That's right.
And so if you feel like, and I do want to take a moment to, give out these suicide and numbers for anybody that's out there, because we are talking about parenting. A lot of people don't know these hotlines. They exist and they are 24/7. There's suicide, addiction, self-harm, depression, eating disorder hotlines. We have them on our page because I'm a mental health advocate. I know that I can only do so much, and that's why I have these numbers on there. You know, the suicide one is 1-800-273-8255. The addiction one is 877-226-3111. The self-harm is 877-455-0628. The depression one is 888-640-5174. And the eating disorder one is 844-228-2962. And from there, we are going to go to this amazing mission that Claudia is a part of. And so I am super proud of not only being, just a promoter of this, but this is something that every business needs. And so I'm just super excited to share this with you guys. I know you guys can see my screen, and
this is our, can I set it up real quick? You see that this is a mock bank right there in a mock church we have on the back too. We are security with provision. It is a 15,000 square foot facility here in the state of Arkansas in Little Rock. And its CEO is Bobby Hooks. He's been doing security alarms for government and federal agencies and buildings. And I've been asked to be part of this unique, one of the only in the state of Arkansas, where I'll be teaching Spanish to law enforcement like I did 10 years ago. I'll be teaching SWAT, FBI, CIA, DA, every first responder, emergencies. So our facility is a shell, if you will, and we want every agency to come in and bring their trainers. We have an outhouse. We are also doing a community outreach where we're going to be educating our Black and Brown communities as well about gun safety and what to do when you are pulled over by a law officer, a police officer. So this is a very unique business, and I'm honored to be part of. There's Bobby right there. And we are doing chemical warfare training as well. We have retired sergeants and lieutenants, the National Guard as well. And we opened in February. Do you have any more pictures?
Our blackness much time. Your video shows the officers opening fire.
Yeah, fingerprinting.
The father was in his grandparents'
And you can go
backyard.
to the next. Do I have? Okay. We have the SWAT cars too, so that way we have a lot of hands-on tactic training as well, which I think is very important. So security with provision. We have the SWAT team there and the dogs as well. We're gonna have, you can call us, you can bring your team. A lot of the states, what they do, they take their law enforcement or agents to other states to train. This time, the monies and everything can stay in state and they can train here. And in the future, we pray that it expands to Arkansas with provision of Florida, of Missouri, of Memphis, of Oklahoma, and so on and so on. But it is such a humbling thing with, again, talking about parenting, fathering. We've failed our children. I mean, look at what happened in Uvalde. You know, that kid was left to the grandparents, uh, and God knows what he was thinking about. So I had another person say it wasn't the kid, it's the environment and how these kids feel so unloved and unworthy, and they're so lost. And like I said, we as parents are the primary educators of our children. And I remember growing up Latina, my neighbor was a teacher, and that's how I wanted to be a teacher. I'm like, I want to be just like her. But we had the whole neighborhood watching. I'm six. We are three brothers and two sisters. I'm the youngest, and we were all raised by our neighborhood uh, fathers and mothers. But nowadays, with all this craziness, because of the devil is working overtime. But it's like my brain cannot wrap around what that kid was going through right before. I mean, what compels someone to say today, I can't take it anymore. Um, I can't. This is way beyond my pay grade. I'm just like, God help us all, for sure.
And
Um,
it does. I mean, whenever it comes to certain situations, um, I'm a big believer of, yes, God is a sovereign God, but he
yes,
does give us willpower to prepare ourselves. He gives us the endurance and perseverance to learn how to defend ourselves. As a teacher, if every single teacher was required to learn how to handle a gun, that would change things. That would change things. Doesn't they don't necessarily have to have one, but if they had the actual knowledge of how to carry a gun, what to do with it, like that's something that I'm like totally for it. Like I'm a substitute teacher. And if, I would be totally okay with learning how to handle a gun.
yeah. I would always say I'm going to use this weapon, but that was 20 years ago when I started teaching. Now I worked law enforcement myself for 5 years. I've been tased and mazed. I know what it feels like, and I'm still struggling. I'm like, I'm about to get certified to carry, and I rather really zap somebody. But when I'm over here zapping, that bullet is not going to do me any good. So I don't know. It's it's all in God's hands as long as we continue to saturate and understand and love our children now. My partner comes from a very drug infested town in Arkansas, and he's a basketball coach. He saved thousands of lives through basketball involving the inner city kids. And I remember when he started first courting me, he would be inside his vehicle and all I can hear is tas, tas, tas. And I'm like, what is that? He goes, oh, it's gunshots. And I was like, what? He goes, oh, yeah, I live in this neighborhood, but his family, no one messes with their family. They're doctors, they're all educated. The auntie, he was raised by his aunt. Um, and he's been an angel of God sent, but these kids listen to him. These children that their parent or the mom was using drugs while they were in the womb. Like he's teaching these kids chess and basketball and how to be gentlemen and how to respect themselves first and know God. Well, know God first and respect themselves. And all of this. And I look at him and I'm like, oh my God, you're an angel. But
Yeah.
it just takes one simple reaching out to that kid, that kid that is feeling so like no one loves me. Why am I here?
Right.
And again, I'm blessed to have the foundation as you know, as the first generation American. My dad never whooped us, but he sure gave us that look. And my mom would whoop us. And then my sister said, "Mom and Dad are tired. I'll
There,
be whooping you if you misbehave."
let's say I remember
So
the kneel down.
Yeah.
yes,
You know,
la chancla.
And I just was going to mention, I'm going to have to drop off in just a minute, but you were talking about the numbers that you were posting on the suicide hotlines. So you might want to consider also posting a link to the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is an amazing organization that supports LGBTQ youth. The risk of suicide is so much higher within the LGBTQ community because of issues, not necessarily because of how they identify, but because how they're not supported and understood. And so it's an amazing organization that does a lot of work in terms of providing support 24-hour, 24/7, crisis line. And so if you have someone in your network community that, might identify as LGBTQ and me in need of that kind of support, it's great, amazing resources to have. So, but I want to thank you for inviting me to your Father's Day
Thank
Summit. It's
you.
been a pleasure to join you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. And thanks so much for having me join you today.
yeah,
Thank you, Michael.
for all your
I can't wait to look up
everything that
those
you.
books that he referred.
Yeah, I took notes, and I take notes when I feel led to, and I took a lot of notes. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing, that you have done. Shout out to all of the LGBT community. Well, right now is, I think, their month, right?
Community. Yes.
And so I have
Yes.
my co-author to our book is Helping Hands with Hope. She's part of that community, and I include her for a reason, because I feel like they're not included in a lot of things because of beliefs, because of what, opinions and all that. And so I included her story, and she's a veteran, and she's an amazing podcaster as well. Shar, shout out to PEG podcast. She interviewed my son when he published his book. My son is a 10-year-old author, and she got him on her podcast. And PEG podcast it's a positive energy generation. And so she's an awesome lady, and hopefully we'll get her on here one of these times, but she's super busy right now. Shout out to the real estate agent. She is married to one. Yeah. Gotta shout out my real estate folks.
All right, I'm going to drop off so much. Thank you so much. Be well.
Take care, Michael. Thank you.
So this next part
That was amazing.
do is we have a lot of things for you guys on our page. If you guys can see, this is our link tree. You can literally connect with us in the easiest way by going through to our link tree. We have the parenting summit that we just recently did. We have the English podcast, which is called Transcending la Familia. We have the parenting summit that we did that featured a lot of amazing women. There's our ladies. Yeah, our ladies. She's this one right here. She's a Dr. Lilac. She is in Israel. Of course, we had special needs mothers. This was a special needs mother. We had a health coach as well. Health is so important to me, and so I always try to include a health coach, because the only way that we can transform and renew our mind is by learning how to feed our body. Learning healthy habits, learning how to have balance when it comes to food, when it comes to habits, and so this, you can donate to our mission. You can connect with us. Of course, we have it in Spanish as well. We have our Spanish page, which is called Momentos de Bendición. the English podcast, which is called Moving Mountains for You. We have a parenting group, which if you're watching this, it was already shared in that group on Facebook. And of course, this was the special thing that we're gonna do next is this English and Spanish Writers Masterclass.
Yeah.
The summer program, we
I'm
have
excited.
we have 2 interns already. And so I'm super excited to get that started for everyone. And our Facebook page about health, our virtual vendor show. So shout out to all small businesses. You are awesome. You guys are changing the world with choosing to hire yourself. And Unidos para Latinos Facebook group, the reason why we have that there is for our immigrant families that are in process of getting their ITIN numbers or need some kind of direction when it comes to living in the United States, particularly here in Arkansas, because that's where we're at. But we also do post things that are in California and other places, but most of the information that we share is Arkansas based. Because of Arkansas United and all of the amazing organizations that both me and Claudia have attended. And so,
Yeah, I'm second generation Arkansas United member.
yes, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
if you want to buy our t-shirt, we have a t-shirt that you can buy. And then the very last one is honestly one of my favorite things to do.
I know. I said we don't have enough to do.
I know, right?
We were single 2
So
years ago.
so this Arkansas singles group was Claudia's idea. When she told me, my face lit up because I was like, this is genius.
Yeah.
Do this.
We wanted to do, let me share with you guys. I wanted to do organize a function over at one of our local Mexican restaurants that we love. Shout out to Diablos. And have no more than 10 people, $50 a piece. Proceeds go to Learning Idiom, of course, and be blinded. So you're talking to the guy and you're listening to him. Because a lot of people say, how do you
Hi, Woofy.
fall in love? What's the first thing that you love about your partner? Is it his eyes? Is it his ears?
For me, it's the
Is
voice.
it his hands? For me, it's the voice. So we're gonna blind our contestants, our future couples, and you're gonna be asking questions like, if you knew that your life was gonna be over in an hour, where would you go? Where would you travel? Or what would you eat? But again, these are just questions, and you're blindfolded. You don't know what the guy looks like, and the guy doesn't know what you look like. So you're just listening to each other, and you're asking each other these cool questions. Um, and if you like that person's voice or you vibe with them, then you tally up that person, number 3 or whatever. And then at the end of the day, you can't choose more than 3 people actually that you actually really, really for real vibed. You look at each other and hopefully the attraction still stands, right? But anyway, it was an idea, just like a lot of amazing entrepreneurs out there that come out with all these ideas. And I'm a creative opportunity. I tell Aysleth, you're gonna model this weekend. She goes, wait, what? And I said, yes. Back in the day when I was younger, I modeled, and it was so much fun. It really boosted my image, my self-esteem. But now I'm almost 50 next month. Yay! This is what 50 looks like, amigos y amigas. No, I'm kidding. Right, Woofy? And but I told her she's going to model. You're going to come to this Juneteenth with Sanicia Davis. Uh, asked me to help her out, so I'm helping her. I helped her out a little bit here. First ever Juneteenth in Faulkner County. Kudos to Sanicia Davis with Blessed Gals. She did an amazing job organizing this with all the vendors, the special guests, the speakers, the dancers, the singers. My gosh, they had what is that, seaweed, sea moss stuff out there. They had a 10-year-old little girl selling snow cones, and they're so delicious. I bought a little bit of everything. They had African gorgeous attire. They had all kinds of like lip glosses that was done by a young girl. She's 10 years old. There's Miss Smith. Her story, she too is we need to put her on the podcast, by the way. I
That's-
have her business card. Her testimonial is amazing. So look at these beautiful queens. They slayed that runway.
That was a dancer,
There's that dance studio. Yes.
another model,
Yes.
photographer.
Photographer. And it was just a beautiful thing to see the African American community come together and support each other through, the buying each other's goods. That's what it's all about. And these children are seeing this. These are little 5, 4, 3-year-old entrepreneurs in the making. They're seeing their brothers and sisters and their community thriving, and that's what it's all about. This reminds me of the first time I helped organize the LULAC event more than 25 years ago in Little Rock with with LULAC and a bunch of other El Latino and Ola, Arkansas, and it was amazing. We raised over. That is her studio. I forget her name. I'm sorry because I just met her that day. But she, I mean, they were
It was
literally
time. It really was.
yes,
It was so much fun. Like
yes.
there were some artists that were giving, look at that smile. Like you
I
can't,
know.
there, people were just so happy. To me,
They, yeah,
this was a model.
yeah,
It was such to me, it was a very enriching event.
yes.
If you don't know what the Black culture is or how they act or how they, express themselves, I definitely want to invite you, go to one of these events because you will see just how like enriching that experience is. And
Hmm.
to be a part of like the fashion show, I was like, what? This is weird.
Yeah. My partner couldn't make it. He's African American. He's Black, and he could make it because he was working. But we are definitely not gonna miss it
It was a lot of
next
fun.
time.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
I
gonna
love to
time.
anything community involvement. Look
Yeah,
at these beautiful kids. Look at these kids just really looking up to these singers and
it,
models and vendors.
it was
Where's
such
your picture of you modeling?
it's
That outfit. Shout
it's
out to the designer. Who was she again?
so here's one if you guys want to hear a little bit for I don't know.
Simon Park.
So for everyone that's on Zoom, just gonna stop recording since we're gonna be sharing a little bit of what we do and everything. So
Mhm.
let me just stop recording and hope you guys have an amazing day. God bless.
Thank you guys and happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, and we're
God
gonna
bless each and every one of you. You're doing a great job.
reach out to us if you guys have any questions or concerns. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we are on Facebook, of course. And so take care, God bless, and peace be with you.